Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Galatia Strong. I'm a physical therapist who got 100% on my NPTE, and this led me to co-found SPT with Me, which is an NPTE prep course. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other ones at sptwithme.com when you're studying for the NPTE. In this video, I'm going to be talking about possibly my favorite and, if not, probably the most important piece of advice I can give for studying, whether or not it's for the NPTE. Maybe you're first year, second year, it doesn't matter. My advice is to put a picture to it. When we study and we're given lectures through our instructors, professors, or you're reading a textbook, whatever it is, we're always learning about the body section by section. And what I mean by that is if you think about your anatomy class, content is often split into talking about, the cervical spine. We're talking about all the components in it, bony landmarks, nerves, arteries, lymphatic system, things like that. Then we move on to the shoulder region. Same thing. Within the shoulder region, we're talking about bony landmarks, ligaments, joints, arteries, etc. Then, same thing, we go down to the elbow, same thing, even going down to the knees, right? Now, as we go through and learn the entirety of that region, again, cervical spine all the way down to the hand, I'm definitely going to say that we do touch upon it, but not as often do we spend much time considering the flow of everything. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you're starting from your cervical spine, and, are you really taking the time to see the flow of the brachial plexus coming from the neck, down through the shoulder region, down through the humerus, down to the elbow, and so on, all distally? Are you considering how it travels all the way down to the hand, the fingertips? If anything, the nerves might be one of the only ones that we really take into consideration this flow. But have you ever thought to do this with your arteries? What about even your bones, coming from the shoulder, going down the humerus? Can you sequentially name all these important bony landmarks? So, for example, sure, we've heard about internal and external carotid arteries, but where does it come from? Where is it actually going? So again, we often learn about the body in chunks because realistically we have to. You have to get some way to get all the information across. But after you've learned it all, to really get this information down, you need to put the pieces together like a story, like a sequential pathway to see how they flow and how everything is intertwined throughout the body. What makes it challenging to be able to present topics in the way that I'm talking about, and maybe even just think about it in that way, is because the body and human anatomy is just so complex. If you're to go online and look for some images of the shoulder joint, you're going to see so many different illustrations of that. Some are only going to show the bones of the shoulder joint. Some are only going to show the nerves that travel throughout it, the arteries, etc. Now, of course, this is for ease of understanding, and I get that. However, it's not reality. We don't only have nerves traveling through. We don't only have arteries traveling through. Of course, there are so many things going on. Everything is intertwined. However, think about it. How am I supposed to know about median nerve entrapment, let's say, and where along the path it occurs if I can't see where the muscles are with respect to the median nerve that courses through it? So it is possible to find these images that carry just enough information, but you have to take some time to do some research. So I'm going to give an example about what I'm actually talking about. So this is an image that I'm sure, we're either all familiar with it, and if you're not, you're going to get there. Obviously, this has to do with the arteries. So first things first, do you have it memorized? I'd say, okay, that's great. If not, you're going to memorize it anyways. But memorizing it is probably the least of your worries. Do you know where this region, where these structures are actually located in your body? If you were to just look at your friend or your classmates, could you actually point to where it's located? For example, is it in the sternal region? Is this closer to your abdomen? So first things first, do you know what it is? And do you know where it is in general? The second thing again is, this is just a segment of your body of the arteries. Where is it coming from? And what are the next steps of it? This picture is not the end of where these arteries are. So now we're definitely going a little bit more in depth, right? So if you start at the bottom, yeah, they're the same arteries that we talked about in the previous image. However, now you can see what the next steps are. You're ascending, you say, oh, you know what? These actually turn into the vertebral arteries, the internal and external carotid arteries. And well, if you keep ascending, oh, this actually turns into the circle of Willis, which I'm sure you have touched upon. Hopefully, if not in the future, you will. So now we started to get into something a little bit more complex, how they're all connected. However, that's definitely not all. Remember, here we're just shown arteries. Where's the rest? So this is where we start to pull in something a little bit different. Again, the previous image showed only the arteries, but now we're starting to see other structures. You know, where are we in space in general? Are we in the hips when we're talking about the aorta? No, this is in the area where the trachea is. So that's your answer to that. So this is how we can start to see where the structures are oriented relative to other anatomical structures in the body. So now we see where these specific arteries are in relation to the trachea, to the vagus nerve. And we can also see how the vagus nerve and the recurrent laryngeal nerve have some sort of, important, interesting relationships relative to these arteries. And so you can see how they swoop underneath the arteries and connect. So here we're going even more into depth. We're still talking about the arteries, and again, with previous ones, sure, we connected it to the trachea, we connected it to a nerve, but where do these arteries actually travel to and travel through? What's the dynamic between the bones? And this information is really helpful in helping us understand things like special tests that we do. So for example, think about this picture with vertebral basilar insufficiency, that test, VBI. So look at how the vertebral artery goes through the foramen, and look at, superiorly how it kinks in that region. Now maybe this is why if we extend and rotate a person's cervical spine, this really places that artery on stress and stretch. And maybe this is why we perform the test that way. Furthermore, we can also see that the big artery in front of it, the carotid artery, is not encased in bone. So there's a lot that you can derive from pictures like this, reasonings for why we do things the way that we do. So, for example, with the carotid artery, it's not encased in anything. It's a lot easier to injure. It's less protected. But because it's less protected, maybe this is the reason why we are able to utilize it and palpate it if we want to feel for a pulse. All right, so now we know that the carotid artery is what we palpate. Well, it's not so much that we could just palpate the carotid artery anywhere along its tract. As you can see, there are a lot of muscles that surround it and are going to block our opportunity physically from actually touching it because it is not easily accessible. But if I know my anatomy, I'm going to be able to know where exactly along its tract that I need to be to palpate that heart rate and pulse through that opening and separation between muscles. So just keep in mind, the example that we've been working through has only really been with the arteries. However, we have so much more in the body, as you know. So no matter what you're studying, think about the relation with nerves that are present in the surrounding area. Bones, tendons, ligaments, joint capsules, the lymphatic system, etc. There's so many things. These images are all accessible. It just takes time to be able to find it. And this is what's really going to allow you to truly understand the human body. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope it was really helpful. When you're studying for the NPTE, feel free to check us out at sptwithme.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. Thanks.